Oh, there's weight on here for sure. Definitely got some more Plaice coming up. Peas in a pod, just the same sort of size as all the others. But there we go, look at that, pristine condition. I'll get him unhooked, chuck him straight back. I'm out. The sun is shining. It's been a great day's fishing. There's going to be loads coming up on tips, tactics, bait, rig choice, how it's affected my fishing. Keep watching to find out more. Well, good morning. It is another glorious sunny day and you're joining me down Brighton Marina on the East Wall. Target today again is Plaice. Still far too sunny to be targeting the sole in any seriousness. I've already got one rod cast out and that's really it for the day. So we'll see how we get on. And good news, the May rot finally seems to be dissipating. If I look at the sea, it's now getting closer to blue than brown and it looks pretty good. We'll see how it fishes though, and as the tide progresses on, we'll see if the rot situation changes. I haven't reeled in yet, so I haven't seen whether there's any going to be any on the line. It's now 8 o'clock in the morning and I think high tide's probably about 1:30, but I'll check that later. The plan is hopefully to fish the tide all the way up, and I've got some absolutely stunning bait with me today. So we'll take a look at that in a second. So let's take a look at the bait. I have with me 4 wraps of fresh lug. Now, even though these have been in my fridge a few days, they're still pretty good. And if I slap them down, well, maybe that one's a little bit half dead, but that one's looking better. Slap it down, there we go. Still goes a little bit tight. And some of my mates swear by 5-day-old lug, which is what these are now. But anyway, they're going to be really good. And I also I've got a load more in my call bag to go with my 4 wraps of lug. Some beautiful, beautiful Doug ragworm. There we go. Lovely and lively. And hopefully one of these baits will pick us up a Plaice. They both work really well for Plaice. So let's see how we do with that. I didn't bring any frozen baits with me today because I've got quite a bit of fresh. I wanted to prioritise using that up. So yeah, 4 wraps of lug, and I've probably got about half a pound of rag with me in total, a few in here, and we're good to go. So bring on the Plaice. So if you've watched my other videos, you've probably guessed what rods I have with me today. I have my Tronix Pro Xenon C6 low diameter rods coming in at 13'2", so that's really good for the slightly cramped conditions, paired with my Shimano 14,000 Ultegra, loaded with 20-pound Plaice. And I need to stick a new shock leader on this today. So I have with me some Xenon tapered shock leaders, and they are in, sitting on the end, 15 to 60 pound, and I'm using 6-ounce lead, so 60-pound shock leader, 6-ounce leads is exactly what we want. So I'm going to get the line thread up the eyes, and then we're going to tie on the shock leader. Always really important to use, especially down, well, any venue really. You should never not fish with a shock leader unless you're going to be plopping it 15 yards out, or maybe lure fishing, you know. But whenever you're fishing with leads on the bottom, in my view, you should always be using a shock leader. So we're going to get this tied on. Because it's a tapered shock leader, I like to do 2 4-turn uni knots essentially. That's 2. Oops. I've got a little knot in the end of the line there, bear with me. Get a bit more of an end, that's better. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's tied, well, loosely tied a uni knot in the shock leader line onto the main line. Now I'm going to do the same the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Gently pull that. Now before I slide it, I'm going to wet that because we know friction can damage line. So I still haven't pulled it tight, but I've just nested them together. A bit more moisture. Now I can give it a really good pull. So there we have our nice neat little knot, and I'll just trim the ends. Now I'd usually use nail clippers for this, but I haven't got them with me today, I don't think, and I can't be bothered to hunt through my bag. So I'm just going to trim these ends with my scissors. There we go. So there we have a nice neat little knot. Try and get that up better. Hopefully you can sort of see that there on my thumb. And we're good to go. So I'm going to get this leader wound on and then we'll take a look at some rigs. So let's take a look at one of my rigs. And just on the end of that shock leader that I've just tied on my reel, I put one of the casting snaps because I like to change my rigs while I'm fishing. And on here I've got a 3-hook flapper rig. These are 8, 9, 10 inch suits, and each of them has a size 6 hook on the end. When I've loaded them with half a lug each. So it's a fairly long rig body compared to the length of the snood, so I've got a bit of space there between the baits. So one right at the top, another snood attached in the middle, and then the third snood there is attached just above the weight. So it's a 2 up, 1 down style flapper rig with my 6-ounce grip there at the bottom. And I'm using 6-ounce grips because the tide rips around here. I can see the one I cast out first has already moved around loads to my left. So I'll cast it out straight and it's already down that way. So I'm going to walk up to the next bay and give this a gentle flick out to see if we can pick up a fish. So let's get the baits out. Not going to catch fish with the baits up here. So like I say, a gentle little flick, a little bit to my right because the tide's pulling to the left. That's about 25 yards out. And the other one I've got out at about 50. See if I can work out what distance the fish are at. So I'll move that one along a bit so I don't get cross lines. A little bit line out. And get my drag set, because you never know what can happen down the marina. A few days ago, well, earlier in the week, I come down here, lost a conger about that size, about that round, which hopefully will have been in one of my earlier videos. I haven't edited it yet, so I don't know how that come out. But that was on my summer species scratching rig. I was never going to get it up the wall. I haven't got a drop net with me. Maybe some other sessions I'll bring a drop net along, target some bigger fish. But for the minute, it's Plaice season, and that's what I'm after. So let's take a look at one of the other rigs I'm going to use today. You couldn't get much more different from my 3-hook flapper for as far as Plaice rigs goes. This is a 2-hook clip down rig with 2-foot snood, so I've got the imp at the bottom with my 6-ounce grip on there. Middle of the rig body, we've got a cascade swivel held in place with beads and 2 rig gum stops. There's the 2-foot snood. Pop the weight down for a second. And at the bottom of the snood, we have the regulation sequin and bead held in place again with that rig gum stop there. That's quite a heavy duty snood. This is a blackout snood, I think it's a 0.4 line. And on the bottom end, I've got a size 1/0 hook. So I've got size 6s on the flapper, 1/0's here, and that's to allow me to put out a slightly bigger bait. I'll just find my ragworm. Now, schoolboy error, I forgot my bait needle today. I always like to clean them between trips, and for some reason it didn't go back with all my other tackle. So we're going to thread this worm on, this lovely, beautiful ragworm. It's going to bite me any second onto this 1/0 hook. So I'm using the 1/0 hook with these big rag, trying to match the size of the hook a little bit to the size of the bait. And I know that any reasonable size Plaice out there is going to be able to get a 1/0 hook in its mouth. So I'm going to slide that worm on as carefully as I can without my bait needle. Going to get mucky hands today, aren't I? It's much messier doing it this way. There we go. That bad boy is on there, and with the bait stop perfectly positioned at the top of the worm. So that one's that. That's that on there. And I've got some lug for the top hook, so I'm just going to give this a slap. There we go. You can see that moving a little bit maybe on the camera. Just going to nick off the tail and nick off the head. Normally I do that with my scissors, but they're all the way over there and I'm standing here. So the top snood, also 2 foot long. We've got the SRT spring there at the top, so we get some tension on the cast. And on this one I've actually got a pop-up as well as my bait stop. Plaice can be quite inquisitive feeders, so that little pop-up is going to give it a little bit of movement, which might just attract a Plaice on. So I'll get my lugworm, tail end first, and slide that on nice and neatly. I'm really careful to make sure the hook doesn't leave the worm until it comes out at the head. And because he's a slightly old lugworm, I'm actually going to use a little bit of elastic on this, either side of the eye of the hook. I'll just get the bait stop in the right place. I've got my bait elastic here. Just get it out of my pocket. There we go. So starting just above the top of the hook there, whip that on, go over the eye, just up and down a couple of times, and that'll just help secure it. And also remember, plaice like to suck at the bait, so that'll help keep it in position if a lovely fat plaice does come along. You never know, we might bag up today, we might blank, but we're out here enjoying the summer, having a fish. So I've got that spare rig baited up and ready to go, and it's time for some breakfast. I have with me a bacon and egg muffin from Mackie D's. And I was quite healthy. I got an orange juice to go with it and a packet of apple slices and grapes. So it's not all bad. But when you get down here early in the morning, like I did, was in a bit of a rush to leave home, didn't have any breakfast before I set off, got myself a muffin, and I'm good to go. And it also provides an opportunity to use the loo before I walk all the way down the arm. As you can imagine, it's a little bit hard to go to the loo when you're fishing down here on your own. So anyway, made use of the facilities, got my breakfast, had a lovely walk down here. It's peaceful at the moment, but it's a Saturday, sun's out, and it's the beginning of half term down where I live. So I can imagine it getting a bit busier later. So I wanted to beat the crowds, get a bit of filming done, try and catch a few fish before it gets super rammed. Yum, yum. So that's it. I've had my breakfast. Time to check the first baits I chucked out. See if there's been any activity. Tighten the drag first. I can see a little bit of may rot on the line, but the water is looking so much clearer today. And there's a bit of weight on here. Hopefully it's not just may rot. It feels like a fish. Yeah, we got something. Double shot, I think. A double shot on my loop rig. Not big ones though. Oh, here comes the globby rot. There we go, 2 plaice. So there's, let's say, not massive. There's the first one. Get the second one up here as well. There we go. Peas in a pod they are. Get them unhooked, chuck them back. So there we go, our 2 peas in a pod. This one's nicely lip hooked. So I'll get that one out first. Cool, get my forceps on it. At least I didn't forget my forceps, eh? So get the angle right. That's it, straight out there. There we go. There's the first one. That's the slightly bigger of the 2. Let's see what it's coming in at. That is 26 centimetres. So I'll get this guy chucked back and then we'll unhook the second one. So here we go. It's going to go straight down the bottom. Yep, swam straight off. So let's get on to unhooking number 2. Now this one's taken down the hook much deeper. So we're going to have to use the through the gills method on this boy. So I'm going to get myself prepared. Slide that through. Right, pulled that, it's turned the hook straight away. Now get the hook, gently push that back up with the forceps, straight out the mouth, and he's good to go back. That one's a fraction under 25. So there we have him, plaice number 2. So those 2 little plaice, the one on the bottom hook was on a ragworm, and the one on the top hook was on the lug. So that's good. Evidence both baits could do us well today. So I'll get this loop rig rebaited. So this loop rig, it's got 10, 12-inch snoods on it. And we have size 2 saltwater super match there with the usual bait stops. So if you've watched my videos before, you'll have seen how I've done my loop rigs. SRT spring for the top hook. where the swivel is, to give that a bit of tension. I'll just gently get this worm on. The battery died just as I was going through baiting up. So I'm putting a little ragworm on the bottom hook. Not as big as the ragworm I picked for the top hook. And we get one of these lovely lug. Sorry, not as big as the ragworm I picked for the 1/0 hook, I should say. Snip the tail and head off. And we get this lugworm on. So this is going on top hook, so baiting it up exactly as I just had it with that double shot. Whole lugworm on the top. Oh, they're still toughening up lovely, these, considering they've been in my fridge for 5 days. Thank you, Becky, for the worms. Slide the bait stop back down. And there we go, look at that. Pristine baits. Good to go when I reel in. So the next rig to check is that 3-hook flapper that I chucked in closer. See if we picked anything up on that. But it's always nice to get a fish on your first chuck. And you know what? A double shot is even better. So let's give this 3-hook flapper a check over. Tighten the drag. So still a little bit of rot on the line. Nothing bad. Doesn't feel as heavy as the one I reeled in just now. But remember, it was cast in much closer and we've got a different style of rig. Yeah, so nothing on here. So when I chuck this back out, we're going to get it out a little bit further. You can see all that rot coming off. In fact, something's had a go at it though. My middle hook has been, the ragworm's been pretty much eaten. Sorry, the lugworm's been pretty much eaten. It looks like something's had a suck on the bottom hook as well. Let's take a look at that. Look at that middle hook. Oops, if I can get hold of it. So hopefully that's not crabs. And it looks like something's had a suck on the bottom one as well. Top one, hard to tell. Anyway, I'll get the loop rig chucked back out instead. And there we go. Juicy baits, good to get launched out. Let's get them whacked out. There's a little bit of globby rot on my line, but I'm sure that's going to fly off the second I cast. Probably smack me in the back of the head. There you go. So that one's gone out maybe 70 yards, a little bit further than the first chuck. There we go. And we're back out fishing. Let's see if we can get another double shot. I've just had a bite on the left-hand rod. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. Nice to actually see it pull down. This has got my clip down rig on with the 2-foot snoods. Let's check the time, 8:59. I'm not in any rush to deal with it because we're place fishing. And when we're place fishing, patience is the order of the day. I'll give it a couple of minutes and then we're in. I don't want to leave it much longer than that because I don't want them deep hooked either, you know. Pretty much everything I catch is going to go back. Certainly today in the heat we've got down here. There's no point keeping a fish at 9 in the morning if I'm going to be fishing through to the afternoon on a really hot day like this. Anyway, we'll leave that to develop and see if it comes to anything. So, time to take a look, see if that bite became anything. I've got my spare rig there, baited up, ready to go, the 3-hook flapper again. Yeah, there's definitely some weight on here. Definitely some weight on here. What a start. Have we got anything? Oh no! There's me thinking it's weight. It must just be the weight of the May rot. Sad times. Look at all that glob. Still, like I say, better than it was. Something has had a go at the top hook there, which is the hook with the lugworm on it. Looks like it's been a bit sucked. Colour's gone out of it. The ragworm on the bottom, pretty much untouched. And we get some fresh baits out. God, slimy rain rot makes it hard to get that off the clip. Slippy, slippy. So clip on the spare rig. And on this one, I've gone for a lug, half a lug and a rag cocktail on the top hook. Oops. Middle hook, I've gone for a whole lug, and the bottom hook, we've got a whole, slightly smaller king ragworm, slightly smaller than the bigger ones I've got with me. So I've upped the size of the baits from the first chuck because we saw all the bait had gone from the middle hook. So I'm just trying to make it take it a little bit longer for the fish to steal my worms. So here we go. There's a few more people arriving now. The people who had a lie in. There we go. That's out about 50 yards, give or take. About where I picked up the first 2 fish on this rig. Sorry, the other rig, the loop rig, not this rig. Let's see if we can pick something up on the 3-hook flapper. Well, I've just had the gentlest of taps on the left-hand rod, just sort of like that. This has got the loop rig on that I had the double shot on already. So maybe that's going to be the rig that works today. I've rebaited the one I just reeled in, the 2-hook clip down. Put a nice big juicy rag on one of the hooks and a whole lug on the other. So that's ready to go when I reel in next. Keep baits in the water as long as possible, catch more fish. That's the theory anyway. There we go, lovely bit of orange juice from Mackie D's. Get one of the 5 a day from McDonald's. Sounds almost like a contradiction. I've still got my fruit to go that I picked up with my breakfast meal. What do we need? We need another Plaice. So it's time to take a look and see if that little knock became anything. The baits have been out about 20 minutes as well, so they've had a good soak. Certainly well gripped. Come around this side. Just a glob of main rock. Delightful stuff, eh? Delightful stuff. Hooks have been pretty clean though. Top hook has got a tiny bit of bait left on it. And the bottom hook has got less bait on it than when I chucked it out there. So look at that. That is stripped clean. I don't like the look of that. Bottom hook. A little bit of ragworm left, but mostly gone. Anyway, the 2-hook clip down is baited and ready to launch. So we just got to do the usual, change the rig over. Just grab the swivel at the top of my next rig. And we're almost good to go, just got to clip it up. Look at that. Beautiful, juicy ragworm. Be interesting to see how that comes back. Nice big worm that. Just going to move my pop-up down, so it's just above the worm this time. Anyway, let's get him back out. I hope that stripped hook isn't a sign that there's going to be a bit too much crab activity. But anyway, let's get this out, maybe 50, 60 yards. Plop. And there we are. So I'll do the usual cycle, rebait this rig I've just reeled in, patiently wait for Mr. Plaice to come along, or Mrs. Plaice. Swallow the hook down. But given the size of those first 2 I had, those 1/0 hooks might be a bit much for them. But I have had smaller fish get a 1/0 hook in their mouth. But I'm not really here to catch little ones. I want a nice big 50cm Plaice, please. My PB's 48 centimetres, just shy of that magical 50. But I caught that down Seaford, not down here. Few years back. Anyway, let's keep fishing. So this 3-hook flapper's been out here maybe 20 minutes now. We're going to get this one checked and then chuck the loop rig back out. That's kicking back, so that little touch I had must have been a fish. I don't think this is just mayrot. I'll be sad if it is. Staying deep, I like the look of that. Have we got anything? There must be something on there. Hopefully not a crab. Staying very deep. There we got at least 2 fish. Look about the same size as the first chuck when I had that double shot. Get them up the side. There we go. Another double shot, a lovely little Plaice. Middle hook stripped clean. And we got that one on the top hook. Looks maybe a little bit bigger than the first ones. And there's on the bottom hook. Let's get these guys unhooked. There we go, that's the first one. This is the one I thought was probably the bigger of the 2. fraction over 25. And get the other one up here. That one's slightly smaller, that's about 23 centimetres. There we have our 2 peas in a pod, and we're good to get them chucked back. So here they go. Whoa, I'm in the next one. Both swam straight to the bottom. So far, we have had 4 Plaice. So let's have a think about the tactics. I've got 3 rig choices, and I've checked the snood lengths. The 2 clip down is indeed 2-foot snoods. The 3 flapper is 12-inch snoods, and my loop rig has also got 12-inch snoods. Now, the 4 fish we've had, admittedly it's early days, the 4 fish we've had have been on the flapper rig and the loop rig, so the 12-inch snoods at the moment are out fishing the 2-foot snoods. Now, we can also think about the size of the baits I put on. Remember the flapper, when I first reeled it in, we had very little bait left on that. I can't remember exactly how much, but it looked like I needed to put bigger baits on, so I upped the bait size and put whole worms on, and then that chuck we've reeled it in, and we've had a lovely double shot, and the middle hook still stripped. So it looks like using the bigger bait and the shorter snood seems to be what's doing the trick today. I'm not going to write off the 2 clip down yet, but we'll see if that picks anything up as the day goes on. Well guys, time to check the baits again. See if another Plaice has come our way. Oh, it's hot down here, my rod's getting hot. Oh, time to drag. And I can see globby rot on this line, but I can also see a fish. That's what we want. Just the one this time. Let's have a little kick back. Let's get him up the wall. There we go, bottom hook's been attacked as well. This is the 2 clip down rig with those 1-0s on. So if I keep missing fish on it, I might change down those hooks. But again, all peas in a pod these Plaice. No monsters, but still a bit of action, which is great to see. And I do love my flatty fishing. Woohoo! Well, I'd like to say they're getting bigger, but they're not. This chap come in at 23 centimetres. Anyway, I'll get him back. Let's get him chucked back to live another day. Come back when he's 50 centimetres, please. Drop him down the gap. So guys, we had that Plaice. Look at that. That's the ragworm. That was the hook that had the Plaice. The bottom hook with the lug. Look at that, there's only a tiny bit of bait left there, and that bait's been sucked, which says to me a Plaice has had that in its mouth and not taken the hook down. So it might be these hooks are a little bit too big. Maybe I'll give them another hour, and if I'm still getting the same issue with fish taking the hooks in, taking the baits down but not the hook, I've got some spare hooks with me. I can switch down a size or 2. Anyway, we need to get some more bait on. So I'm going to do the same again. Rag on one, lug on the other. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at the size of that worm. You can see why I want to use a 1-0 hook when I've got worms that big with me. Thank you, George, for giving me the bait. So I need to thread this on carefully because I've got my baiting needle at home, which is obviously a very useful place to keep it. Not in my rucksack. There we go, look at that. Just shift that bait stop down so it's just touching the top of the worm. And that is one beautiful juicy rag ready to go. And I've put that on the bottom hook. I nearly finished my first wrap of lug here. Give that a slap, get it to tighten up, and do my usual trim of the top and the tail. So get the sandy tail off, snip off the head. There's our lugworm. Slightly sticky because they are 5 days old, but they're definitely still alive. And they seem to be doing pretty well today. As I said earlier, someone I know swears by 5-day-old lug and will keep it in their fridge until it's 5 days old before they use it. Me, I like using them fresh, but I'm quite happy to use them when they're 5 days old if they're still in good nick. And as long as you keep them in dry paper, wrapped in cling film like I've done, there's no reason at all why they still can't be decent on day 5. When they're in my fridge, actually, I do keep them in my bait pack here. Keep them in that. I have my fridge set on 7 degrees, so it's a little bit warmer than you'd want for your food. Keep them in the bait pack, and my theory is, then the fridge is obviously going to cool down a bit and heat up a bit, cool down a bit. You keep them in your bait pack, that's going to keep the temperature more stable for the worms, and I think it helps them keep better in your fridge. So dry paper, cling wrap, keep them in your bait pack, And for me, fridge at 7 degrees works. So we've got this rebaited. I'm going to keep it over here in the shade. There's not a lot of shade down here at the moment on the arm. I don't want those baits cooking before I chuck them out, and I'll be quite happy sitting there. Well, time to check these baits again. The tide is picking up, and even though I'm casting from the next bay, my lines are pulling round to the left. This is the loop rig I'm reeling in now. Whew. I think the lead's holding well, it's just there's a bow in the line. Let's get it moving. Oh, there's weight on here for sure. Definitely got some more Plaice coming up. I don't think it's going to be a lobster like I had the other day, which is beautiful to see. First one I've ever caught. There's definitely fish on here, I can feel them kicking back. Hopefully something a bit bigger, because this is heavier. What have I got? Ah, got your line. That'll be why it's heavier. Well, I didn't have his line. Looks like he's had a nice bite. Wasn't me. But look, something's had the bait off that hook on the bottom. The lugworm pretty much all gone. And we still have on the top hook a chunk of the rag that we stuck out. So switch over the rigs. And this time I'm going to be launching the 2-hook clip down. And there we go. Juicy ragworm. And on the top, we've got that lug. Let's get the baits chucked out. So I'm up in the next bay, ready to launch. Drop length where I want it. There we go. Make sure that drag's nice and tight before I launch the lead. I don't want to slice my finger open if the line should slip. And we're good to go. There we go, back in Plaice City. Well, it's nice that we've seen a few Plaice come out, but it's not exactly on fire. So just to mix things up a little bit, I'm going to see if I can catch something down the side. I've got a very light rig here. It's a 2 up 1 down rig, and it's got really tiny size 6 wormer hooks on there. Look at the size of that. A real mini species rig if there ever was one. I'm not really in the right bay for mini species, but you never know, there might be something down there that'll happily take a little bit of ragworm on a tiny hook. So if we take a look at this rig in a bit more detail, I've actually got a Conti clip at the bottom there, and you just slide that little bit of plastic up, and you've got a little open loop of metal, and we're going to slide that back down. And what I've got here is a rig gum stop that I'm just going to slide down. It holds that bit of plastic in place, because I've had these before where that bit of black plastic slides up and you lose your weight, and I don't want that to happen. So when I use them now, I put on a rig gum stop to hold the Conti clip closed. Bottom snood there, a couple of feet, well 18 inches long with a size 6 wormer. You can see I've glued in place there those little bits of tube and 2 tiny beads and a really tiny swivel. This is a very lightweight rig. Moving up to the middle snood. Again, that's about 18 inches long, size 6 wormer, glue tube. And the top there, we've got a snood a bit longer with a pop-up bead, green pop-up bead on there, and a little tiny clip at the top. So I'm going to put some little tiny bits of ragworm on here shortly. We're going to drop it down the side, see if we can pick something up. So I've got some tiny little bits of ragworm here that I'm going to put on these little tiny size 6 wormer hooks. They're actually quite a strong hook for that size. They're a very delicate little hook. There we go, that's on there. Just going to slide that pop-up down a little bit. There we go. Do the same on the other 2 hooks. Well, minus the pop-up, of course. Little tiny segments of rag. There we go. That one's a little bit longer, but that's okay. This is the thin tail end. Let's get that on. A little bit fiddly when the hooks are this small and you're clumsy like me. There we go. And do the same at the bottom. So in a minute I'm going to reel in one of my Plaice rigs, and I'm just going to have a little bit of a play down the side with this. Now I've got the headpiece. This is going to be hard to put on because it's going to wriggle. Stick that through, leave a little bit dangling. There we are, look at that. Beautiful little bait, and it's good to get chucked down. Let's get this one wound in. And we'll drop one down the side. Right, no fish on this one, but the tide is really pulling to the left. Oh, spider crab action, that's not good. Middle hook's gone. Ah, look, snip me off. Evil things they are. I know they're only trying to feed themselves, but still, I've had enough spider crabs this year. So I get this one just drop down the side in that little V. So there we go. Little baits, good to go. I've just stuck a 4-ounce pyramid on the end. I would like to use something smaller, but the tide is ripping, and actually that is the smallest lead I've got with me. So I'm literally just going to plonk this down the gap here. There we go. Right, just set the drag on that. Right, let's get the other one reeled in and checked. Right, so here we go, let's get it reeled in. Oh, this really has gone down tight. There's no weight on here to speak of, just a little bit of globby rot. They're doing a bit of dredging work at the entrance to the marina, and I'm not sure if that's going to be helpful or a hindrance to our fishing, but nothing I can do about that. I can only really worry about things that are within my control, and that's not one of them. Oh, something's had a go at the bottom hook there. Enjoyed that ragworm, look. Something's munched. Anyway, I'll get my other rig that I baited up ready to go and get that chucked out. So here we go, I've got the loop rig ready to go. Ragworm top hook, bottom hook lugworm tip with a tiny little bit of the tail off the rag that went on the top. The worm was quite a big one, and we're good to launch back out to sea. So again, I'm going to cast it slightly to my right because the tide is ripping to the left. And there we go. Let's hope for another one. Well guys, it's all gone a little bit quiet. The dredger's been working hard over there for maybe an hour or so, and the bites have dried up. It's now 10 to 11. I checked high tide, it's 10 past 1. So 11, 12, we've got a couple of 2 hours, 20 minutes till high. So still plenty of time for it to happen, more so than it has already. My one down the side, I've checked the baits a few times. They're all still fine and untouched. And in a minute, I'm going to reel in the Plaice rig, get fresh baits chucked out there. Anyway, I'm going to keep working hard for these fish. And if I don't get any touches on the little rig I've got down the side, maybe by 12, yeah, another hour or so, then I'll go back to fishing exclusively for the Plaice for a bit and see how I feel later on about mixing it up again. So anyway, we'll keep trying. So let's get these Plaice baits checked. I've got the 3-hook flapper loaded with bait ready to go out. And this one comes in. God, these grip leads do work well. These reels do have some lovely cranking power on them. It's one reason I like using them down here. And when I was using them over in Norway in March when it was just too cold to use my multipliers. Have we got another fish is the question. Yep, we do. Fishy number 6 coming up the side. I think they're getting smaller though. Let's take a look at him. Bottom hook, it's taken that right down. Anyway, there we go. Another tiny little Plaice graced us with his presence. I'll get this guy unhooked, chuck him back. So I had what looked like a little knock on the one drop down the side a while ago. So I've checked the baits. One of the hooks had been stripped, so I've dropped that back down. But now it's time to check the Plaice rig again. So let's see if we've got anything on there. I've got my 2-hook loop rig baited up, ready to go. The one I just caught that last Plaice on. And I've got the 3-hook flapper out here at the moment. Bit of weight on the rot on the line, pulling that tip round. Bit of gloop coming up. There it goes, look at the rod tip. Whoa! Splatty, splatty. No fish this time. Just that nice grip ledge surfing through the water there. Still got 2 hours till high tide. And my bottom hook's been stripped again. Middle hook's definitely been sucked by something. And the top hook doesn't look in great shape either. So still sign of life in the sea, which is good, but no hook up. So it's not perfect by any means, but it could be worse. Anyway, I've got my loop rig here, clipped up, ready to go. I'm going to get these baits back out. We got a bite. We got a bite on the summer species rig. Have I caught it? Oh, something on here, I think. Oh, what have we got? Oh, it's off. It's off. Oh, what a shame. It's had to go at the middle hook. Look at that. Something's had to go at that. I'll sort this bait out and get it chucked back down there. Sign of life, though. Not such a bad thing. Just thread that worm back on. A tiny little piece of bait, that is. There we go. Good to go. Come back, fishy, that's all I can say. It's going to be seconds. There we go. I think he was on there to start with, because it looked like there was something coming up with the rig. But alas, obviously didn't have the hook in his mouth, spat it at the last minute. Tighten that line up a little bit. There we go. Or we just keep watching for another bite, see if he comes back. Well, he's back. I'm just going to tighten that up a tiny bit. Yep. Oh, I've got him this time, I think. Yeah, he's on there. What do we have? Little schoolie. There we go. It was worth trying something different. Only a tiny little fish. I'm just going to be careful because he'll be spiky. But there we go. Look at that. Pristine condition. I'll get him unhooked, chuck him straight back. Remember, if you want to keep bass, they need to be 42 centimetres. This one is a long way off that. Well, that tide pool's eased right off now. We are an hour and a half before high tide. But it's time to check the Plaice baits after the excitement of a little bass. So the tide is definitely running the other way now. And it's time to check our Plaice rigs yet again. The guy in the next bay just pulled one in, about the same size as the ones I've been picking up. So it doesn't seem to be any nice size ones today, but still, they're not absolutely miniature. And it's a nice little bit of action on the rod. So here we go. Loop rig loaded with 2 lug, little bit of elastic either side of the eye of the hook, loaded up, good to go. So I'm going to cast from my own bay this time because the tide is now definitely running the other way. Drop length right and get this whacked out, 50-60 yards is where the Plaice seemed to be. Oh, that might have a little bit further than I intended, but anyway, the baits are back in the water. Well, what can I say? The tide is absolutely ripping from left to right now. My line, which was cast straight out from the other end of my bay, is now down well in front of the bay next to me. Thankfully there's no one fishing there, so I'm not going to annoy him. But I'm going to reel it back in and take a look. I'm just going to walk round to the other side of the bay so I don't interfere with my little scratching rod I've chucked down the side. So I'll just spin the camera around a little bit so you can still see me. Hang on. There. Hopefully I'll be in shot still. Right, let's reel this one in. That really has gone right down tide. I'm going to be fishing in Worthing at this rate. There's not even a load of globby rot on the line pulling it round. It's just the tide, even though I've got a 6-ounce grip. But I'm pretty sure we got a fish on the end here. Yeah, this has got some weight to it. Definitely something on this one. That could explain why it's gone right down tide. This is fighting back. Oh, looks like my other one's pulling as well. So I've got the drag set on it. I'm just going to walk up a little bit, see what we got on here. Hope it's not our friendly spider crab. It feels like a fish. What have we got? There's something on the end. Hey, It's a foul looked flatty, guys. I'll be back in shot better in a minute. Well, there we go. It felt a hell of a lot bigger than that. Poor little mite. Look at that poor little thing. That'd be why it felt heavy. Anyway, I'll get this chap put back. Check my other rod in a second. This is the smallest one of the day. No wonder these guys aren't getting the hooks in their mouths. Come on. There we go. But look how small that is. Absolutely miniature. Anyway, I'll get him chucked back and I'll see how my other rod's doing. Right, that's gone back. Let's have a look at this one. It might just be the tide that's taken that up. It did sort of bounce around a little bit though. Have I got all my bait? Yeah, all the bait's back on there. So I'm just gonna drop that back down while I sort out the Plaice rod. Oh, all action. So that was Plaice number 7. Foul look though, so 6.5 shall we say. Split the difference. Anyway, let's get my other rig chucked back out. Because this tide is absolutely ripping, my little 4-ounce pyramid is doing nothing at all to hold it still. I'm going to try changing it for a 5-ounce hybrid lead. Get that off the Conti clip. I doubt it's going to make much difference because it really is pulling, but it's got to be worth a try. So we get this drop back down. All those baits are still looking really good. Let's have a quick look at the one on the bottom there. That's better. Move that up the hook a little bit. So I'm going to lob this out slightly to the left and see how long it is before it drifts back round to the right. So I'm just going to do a little underarm lob here. Let's see if that can slow down the movement of my little summer scratching rig. So it's a few feet out from the wall. I'll go and stick this bad boy away. Well, that seems to have worked quite well. That 5-ounce hybrid lead instead of the 4-ounce pyramid. My line is still roughly in the direction I dropped it, sort of slightly that way, and it's not pulled me straight back round into the wall further to the west there. So yeah, seems to be working. Let's hope it carries on that way. The tide is ripping so hard now. My caster went out about 10 minutes ago, is literally at that angle. It did look like I had a couple of little taps on it, but I was busy getting my other rig rebaited. So anyway, I'm going to reel this in and see if we've got anything. So I'm just going to walk down to the other side of this little bay again so that I don't interfere with my straight down the side rod, which is holding much better. It's not gone into the wall. Have we got on anything on here is the question. Or is it literally just the tide pull that's taken my grip lead right round? But it's certainly not a foul looked Plaice like we had on the last chuck. No, nothing on here. In fact, these baits look pretty good. Because it hasn't been out very long, I might just have a quick look over them and then chuck it straight back out. No, something's had a munch on the bottom one. Top 2 are looking all right. But look at that bottom hook. Something has definitely had its mouth around that, which is probably those little taps I saw. Anyway, change rig, chuck it back out. So there we go, loop rig, baited up, good to go. I'm not going to chuck this one out as far because we've got that tide rip. Anyway, time to get the baits back in the water. And we're good to go. Just get my drop length right, as always. Much more gentle flick this time. There we go, that's about 50 yards out. Hopefully it can pick us up a fish. Well, now that tide is ripping, it's gone very quiet indeed. So it's time to mix things up again. I'm going to step up the size of the baits down the side. Look at that beautiful worm. That is a monster. This is actually my 2 clip down rig. I'm repurposing it for a dropping down the wall. And another nice lovely ragworm on the bottom hook there. So plenty of tail to entice a fish. I've only put the body up the hook and I've got another 5-ounce hybrid lead on there. So I'm going to get up the little summer species rig and change it over for these absolute beauties. So there we go. I didn't turn the camera on when I was reeling in, but we've got place number 8, and look at that lovely globby rot. I'll have to get that slime off my line and unhook this place. So there we go. Slow and steady wins the day. Peas in a pod, just the same sort of size as all the others. Let's get him unhooked. So there we have it, 24 centimetres on the nose. Pretty much the average stamper fish we've had out so far today. Anyway, let's shut this one back. So time to check these Plaice rigs again. Again, we seem to be fishing down in Weymouth rather than off Brighton Marina. The tide rip is something else down here when it's pulling. There's also a bit more rock floating on top of the water than there was. But this is heavy. I'm pretty sure we've got another fish on here. When you get a fish on, you get taken even more down tide, in my experience anyway. But there's definitely some weight on this, and it is pulling back. I like it when a fish pulls back. Probably means I've got 2 or something slightly bigger than 25 centimetre Plaice. Let's see, it's coming through the water. Oh, it's another Plaice, what a surprise. Number 9, plenty of glob on the line. Oh, there we have it. This one does actually look a little bit bigger. There we go, look. Let's get this one measured. Anyway, look at that disgusting glob. I know I've said it before, but it really is vile. Nobody likes mayrot. Nobody. It serves no purpose. Not to us when we're fishing anyway. I'm sure ecologically it's doing some wonders out there. Anyway, I'm going to get this Plaice unhooked. So with that tide ripping from left to right, I'm going to chuck this loop rig out to the left of where I'm fishing. I've still got a bit of glob on the line, but that'll come off when I chuck it out. See if we can pick up another Plaice. There we go. Ugh, sprayed me, it did. Sprayed me. Anyway, the baits are back out. I've just checked the baits on the rod that's straight down the side. They are looking pristine still, so that's gone straight back down. And now it's time again to look at my Plaice baits. I've got 1 wrapper lug left and a few rag. So the bait's starting to run low, which is fine because I'm not going to give it much longer anyway. I'm supposed to be going out for dinner tonight, and I need enough time to drive home. So it's got the weight out, and have a shower, get all the bait juice off my fingers, so I don't stink when I go out tonight. Well, there we have it, untouched baits on this one. That's the 2-hook loop rig. Let's get the 3-hook flapper chuck back out. We've caught fish. The dredger is leaving us. The sun is still out. We couldn't have asked for more, really. It is now 1:45, so high tide's about half hour ago. We've still got these 2 rods out. We're still trying to catch a fish. Anyway, we've done well today compared to the other people around us. Well, I say we, I have. There's been a few fish come out, but not many by any means. So I'm really happy so far with how many Plaice I've had in that little schoolie, but I'm going to keep fishing. We've still got time to get some more fish. Let's see if we've got our 10th Plaice. Be nice, wouldn't it, to get one more, to get into double figures on the Plaice. There's certainly some weight on this one. Feels like it's pulling back nicely. Have we got a fish is the question. I didn't chuck this one out so far because of this tide rip. It's definitely pulling back and it's staying deep. What have we got? Yeah, we got Plaice number 10. A nice bit of rot. Oh, there we go. They do seem to be getting bigger, you know. Look at that. Oh, there we go. Beautiful Plaice. Get this guy unhooked, as usual. Chuck him back. I think we might give him a measure as well. So there we go again, sending out the loop rig. The Plaice we just had was on the 3-hook flapper. On the lug. There we go. That's about the same sort of distance that I cast the last one. See if we can pick up next one. So here's our lovely little place. Just give myself a bit more line, untangle that from the grip lead. So that was on the bottom hook of the 3/8 flapper. God, it's nicely tangled. How's it done that, eh? Sometimes I wonder. There we go, that's better. That's around that wire. Right, perfect. Pull the bait out of its mouth. So we've got a bit more room to work. And we'll get this hook out. Turned really easily. It's worth going through this again and again because it's such a better method of getting the hook out than any other way I've ever come across. Oh, if I can grip it with the pliers, forceps. That's it. And there we go. Hook out beautifully. Fish relatively unharmed. And this one is coming in at 27. Let's chuck this beautiful place back. Let's face it, every place is beautiful in my eyes. I do love catching them. Oh, I've just had a bite. I just had a bite on this one straight down the side, just as the boat that took all the dredged detritus away has come back. So I'm guessing they're going to start up the dredging again in a minute. Just a bit of a shame because we did see a little flurry of Plaice when they stopped doing that. Let's just see if this bite's still here. Oh, that looked like a bit more of a definite pull down. Very, very tentative though. It's quite a big worm I've got on there. Certainly one on the top hook, it's a monster. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Tighten up my drag. Did I get it? Have we got a fish? No, I missed it. Oh, it's had all the bait off the bottom hook. Right, I'm going to get that rebaited quickly, get another ragworm out, chuck it back down. Now these worms I've got here are a little bit smaller, so I'm actually going to stick two on. Ah, they're biting me. Oh, beasts. I always find that when you get really decent wild dug ragworm, they're feisty. And they do bite. Let's get the other one on here. There we go. One on the top is still looking absolutely fine. Beast of a worm, that. Right, let's get these chucked back over the side. Hopefully that fish is still around and it still wants my bait. That's back out. Now, because it's fishing just in the bay, or between the bays in the little V here, swap my rods back over. Stick it back down. That drag's set lovely and loose. And we're back in the game. Well, you can't hook them all, can you? Well, I didn't turn the camera on when I was reeling in. More fool me. Because we have not one, but two lovely little Plaice. There we go. Another double shot. We're up to 12 and counting. Well, I've just had another bite on the rod that's straight down the side. Nice little pull down. Let's keep an eye on this one. I actually changed the configuration of my rig. It was the 2-hook clip down I'm using. But because I got the rig gum stops, I actually slid the bottom snood down so it was fishing one below the weight as well as the one higher up in the water. Definitely try mixing up the tactics if things are a bit slow. Oh, that looked like I had a little pull down on the left hand one then as well. It's all action. The dredging started up again, sadly. So if you can hear noise in the background, the dredger is in the entrance to the marina just over there. Come on, bite. Oh, there it is. It's still there. It's definitely still there. There's quite a bit of scum on the water surface now. That bite's still there. It just twitched again. Maybe too gently for you to see it, but I definitely saw it. Yeah, there's quite a bit of scum. Since the tide turned, the May rot floating on the top of the water has increased, but it's still such an improvement. I know I've filmed a few videos down the marina lately. There it goes again. There we are. But that's because the beach has become virtually unfishable with the May rot. Have I got it? Oh, I don't think I have. No. Let's check the bait though. I've got one ragworm left. Right. I'm going to top up the bait at the bottom. Get it chucked back down there. Well, I've got another bite on this right hand rod that's straight down the side. I'll let it develop a little bit longer this time and try and be more certain of a hookup. Oh, something moved the weight there, look. Let's keep watching it. I'll just tighten my drag up a little bit because I'm standing right here next to it so I can lift into it. Well, maybe will we get it or won't we get it? Oh, maybe it felt the lead. It felt the resistance, it might have moved off. Let's check the bait. Oh, there's some weight on here. Yeah, there's a fish. I think we got it. What is it is the question. Yeah, it's fighting back. Hey, would you believe it? A Plaice, right in close, down the side. Actually quite a chunky one. It's not what I was expecting. There we go, Plaice number 13. Straight down the side of the arm. On my lovely ragworm. Oops, come here fish. It's not a bad size one that. You know the drill, we're going to get him unhooked, chuck him back. So that one is a lovely fat conditioned Plaice coming in at just shy of 28 centimetres. We're going to get him chucked down the side. I'll take you with me. There we go. Off he goes. Swim into the bottom. I'll get my rig back down the side. Well, I'm going to check my actual Plaice rig now, see if there's anything on here. Can we get past 13? I can have one more chuck with this rod. I've got a rig baited up. I actually stuck a couple of rag on it earlier on before I started running very low. So this is the 3-hook flapper that I've got chucked out now, and I've got the 2-hook loop rig ready to go out in its place. Let's see, have we got another one? It'd be nice to get to 15, wouldn't it? I'm on 13. Well, I've got a globber rot, and we have number 14. They're definitely on the feed down here today. It's been a nice little session. No monsters, but plenty of Plaice action. There we go. Number 14 has graced us with his presence. Right, that's only lip hook, so I can get that hook straight out. There we go, little baby one. Looks like the bigger ones are close in, eh? You know what, I've been thinking. Is that wise? I don't know. Is it dangerous? I don't know, but I have been thinking. I've been sitting here thinking about my Plaice rod and my one straight down the side. And you know what? I could have caught loads more Plaice if I'd carried on fishing both rods for them. But most of the day I've had one down the side here, which picked me up that little schoolie bass, and that surprisingly Plaice pretty close in. But I've been thinking what I might do next time I come down. I don't know when that's going to be. I'm not going to be able to get down the marina for a few more weeks at least anyway. But that one straight down, I think I might actually need a boom. I was thinking then how can I do that? I don't have any booms at home. I don't really want to buy any. But I've got some plastic tubing that I might just stick at the top of a few snoods to hold it out, because my line's pretty much almost straight down. I've got it a little bit further out now than I did have, but when it's been going straight down, that top snood is getting a bit twisted around the rig body. So to get that fishing more effectively, I think I'll go for a little 3-inch bit of plastic tube at the top of the snood, which will stand it off the rig body, and maybe a slightly bigger pop-up on the top snood to hold it up in the water a little bit. Anyway, they're my thoughts. That's thinking about what I can do better in the future. Now it's back to the fishing. Let's see if we got Plaice number 15. Oh, it'd be exciting. I've got king rag out here at the moment. The last few I've caught have all been on the lug, except for that one that was surprisingly on the rig that was straight down the side. Is there going to be anything on here? 14 Plaice ain't bad though, is it? For a morning's fishing. The tide pull has definitely eased, but there's something kicking back on here. I think we could be in luck. I think this could be number 15. Although another species would be quite nice as well, but I suspect it's still going to be a Plaice. It's definitely a flatty. Here it comes. All right, let's get this up the wall. There we go. I get it smaller again. But hey, place number 15, beautifully lip hooked. So I can get this little baby one straight back. There we go, hook is out. Just put my rod a bit better. Don't want that falling slapping down on the side, do we? Let's take a look at this little beautiful thing, perfectly formed. There we go, perfection in miniature. Let's get him back. Here we go, guys. Straight down, woo! And off he swims. Well, what can I say? I hope you've liked this video. We've had 15 plaice and a schoolie. I've packed up my plaice rod. I've still got the one dropped down the side, but I haven't noticed any more action on that. And it's been an absolutely glorious day. Summer seems to have finally arrived and we can get out fishing. So anyway, if you've liked it, please consider clicking like, and I'd love it if you could subscribe to the channel. Thanks to everyone who already did. Anyway, the plaice are in at the marina.